Welcome back, everyone, to the Business Spotlight podcast here with Action Coach Northwest. I am your host, Lauren Trivison, and today we have Miss Lonnie Lorenzo here of the Healing Hut to chat all things business. Hello, Miss Lonnie. So my favorite question and the first question I like to ask is, tell me how your business began. How did you get involved in the med spa world?
The med spa world didn't start until honestly about a year ago. So it's pretty new, that side of what I'm doing. But I started doing this type of work like in the spa world back in 2002. So I've done this for about 23 years. Well, I would say probably about the first 9 years was a little bit of bouncing around. I was fresh out of college, wasn't really sure where I was going to land. I had a business degree and was bouncing around from waiting tables. I worked in a gym. I worked at a payroll company where I sat at a desk for about 8 hours a day, looking at numbers all day. I didn't care for it at all. I ended up landing at a front desk, high-end salon and spa, working as a receptionist in downtown Seattle called Jean Juarez. And I thought, man, the people here are super passionate about what they do. They're enthusiastic, they're happy. And the clients that come in, it was high-end and upscale, but the clients were just glowing when they left. And they were super happy. And I thought, this is something I want to be a part of. Like, I like this. This is kind of fun. So the company offered me a scholarship to go through their nail program. And so they said, hey, if you want to do this, we'll scholarship you to go through our program. Contract is that you would work for our company for 2 years and then your debt's paid. I thought, what the heck? Why not? So that's what I ended up doing. And then I got started in downtown Seattle working there. Over the course of probably the next 9 years, from 2002 to 2011, I did a lot of bouncing around. Worked at the salon for a couple years, loved it. I was starting to do pretty well there. And then I became really interested in aesthetics because I didn't know anything about skincare. And I was seeing what these estheticians were doing. And I had tried some of their services. And I thought, man, this is really cool. Like, I want to learn how to do that too. Life took a couple turns. I ended up taking a year off and I went to Korea. I taught English for a year. Then I ended up, at that point, I met my now ex-husband, but he was in the military. So we went from Korea to Tennessee. And so then I was like trying to figure out, do I want to go back to the spa world? And I thought, oh, I don't know. Maybe I need to get like a real job, like a big girl job.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, shoot, I guess maybe I need to look for something I ended up being an account manager for like a phone company. I hated it. I don't know why I thought I wanted to do that. So ended up going back, and in Nashville, I got a job at the Escape Day Spa and Salon, which was super cool. It was another high-end, fancy, upscale place that catered to all the celebrities, country singers, and stars that lived in Nashville.
Wow.
And it was actually a lot of fun. So we did that, but we were only there for about a year. And then we transferred back to the Seattle area where we were at Fort Lewis. And so then I thought, okay, we're going to settle in Seattle again, closer to family. And I'm going to go back to aesthetic school now. So I ended up doing that. This is 2007 that I did this. So this is 5 years after I'd kind of gotten started. Got my aesthetic license, thinking I'm going to start business there. And then as soon as school was over, we transferred again. So then we moved to Fort Hood, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I was looking for different spas to work at and just couldn't find anything that I felt like compared to where I had been. So I decided I'm going to start my own business. So I rented space from this tiny little spa and I took all my savings out, went and got some equipment, and it just got going there. And so that's actually where the Healing Hut started. So the Healing Hut really started in 2008 in Georgetown, Texas. So that was where that happened. And I thought, gosh, I don't know anybody here. And I was newly pregnant in a town I don't know anybody. So it was kind of insane. I'm like, gosh, I have no idea how I'm supposed to get clients when I don't even know a person here. So, and then my then husband, he deployed. So I was alone by myself, and I ended up calling my mom every day because I had a 45-minute commute to and from. And she's like, you don't know what the nail salon I go to, they just put out a sign that says 50% off, or go door to door and introduce yourself. And so I was always asking her what to do. And so I did it. I printed up some cheap little flyers because I didn't have any money to like do anything fancy. So I went around Georgetown to all the local businesses and introduced myself to the people saying, hey, I'm Lonnie. I'm new to town, starting, a little aesthetic business. Here's some coupons if you want to come check it out. I absolutely hated it. That's the not easy part of what, and social media wasn't very popular at that time. I mean, it was around, but it was kind of newer.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't much of a thing. So I'm like, all right, let me just go do this legwork when it's like 110 degrees out here and I'm pregnant.
Lonnie, you're a superwoman.
It was kind of rough. But and then I'm like, what am I going to do? I got to go get a job. It was like 2 days into it. I'm like, I have to get a job. My mom said, just calm down. Like, just give yourself 2 weeks. Like, just keep going out there and talking to people and see what happens. So I was like, all right, well, finally somebody called. Oh my God, how cool is that? And they came in and it was like, she was super cool. That was awesome. And then her mom called me the next day. She came in and then her sister called the next day. And so in 6 months, long story short, my books were full. I just wouldn't have ever dreamed that it would go so well in this tiny little town in Georgia. So towards the end of that 6 months, I had my daughter. Then we got deployed again. We moved to Augusta, Georgia, and I thought, I'm going to work from home. So we found a house that had a separate entrance where I could start business and have my little ones and be able to work there. And then ran into some roadblocks because the HOA said it wasn't allowed, and I was young. I didn't know anything about HOAs. So then I ended up working at another spa downtown, and that was fun. So, but just transferring your license from state to state to state to state it's a challenge. It was a lot. So then turned out wasn't going to stay in Georgia, and things weren't working out. So my 2-year-old daughter and I, we moved to Spokane. So we came in the dead of winter in 2011 in February, and we took my little U-Haul and towed it behind my CRV, and we came to Spokane thinking it would be maybe a short-term deal, not knowing for sure how anything was going to go. And we lived with my sister for a little while. And then I found, well, it's now called Wink A Salon. At the time, it was a different name, but it's Wink A Salon right downtown next door to the Globe. And I started renting space there. And so that is where the majority of my career here in Spokane has been. I stayed and settled, and I worked there for about 12 years and built my business. And the Healing Hut finally got really super established there because I was able to kind of build some roots, some career roots and, personal roots with my, my daughter and stuff. So I did that. And then just 2.5 years ago, I came out here to the Valley. And so that's how I landed here.
That is incredible.
Kind of long-winded, I apologize, but that's pretty much the gist of it.
No, that's so cool. So kind of looking back to where it all began, if you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
So I think if I had to start from square one in business, I might have hired a business coach to help navigate the process and to provide a blueprint for success. I'm not sure that I could have afforded it at that time because these things are, they're not cheap. But knowing what I know now and the benefits of it, it could have really helped rather than just kind of stumbling along, and I figured things out on my own. But it was kind of blindly just like, oh, let's try this and let's try that, see if this works. But I think having some support would have been really great. So I think that's probably what I would have done.
I love that. I definitely feel that working here for sure and learning the ins and outs of business. Kind of going off of that, what has been one of your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
One of the biggest learnings would be I learned how to work smarter and not harder. When business got going here in Spokane, I started using Groupon. It was a great building block, and it was, for my business, it was super successful. I eventually started seeing about 50 guests a week. It was a lot. And I was fried at the end of every single day, sometimes seeing 15 people in a day. And I thought, wow, how long can I keep up with this? When I did end up finally finding a business coach, she's like, girl, you're going to burn out. You got to figure out how to adjust what you're doing. And so then I started figuring out how to adjust certain things to be able to see less clients and still, have the same type of income and things like that, because you just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So yeah, and so I learned how, and I mean now at this point, I think maybe I see max 25 guests. It's about half from where I was at, where you're just breaking your back every day. You just can't keep that up for years and years. The other thing I'd probably say is just to listen to your gut and to seize opportunities when your gut says it's time to. There's been probably 4 or 5 times throughout my 23 years of doing this that I have all of a sudden there's just these moments where these lights turn on and they're like, oh, you need to do this. I'm like, wait, do I really, should I make these leaps? And it's kind of scary, but sometimes those things I think you need to listen to those.
I love that. And I definitely needed to hear that right now in life. Kind of going off of all of that, I never quite know how to do these transitions, but what are some common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
I'm not really sure what misconceptions there are about running a business. My assumption is that people think that it's simple. It's like, oh, you go to work, you do your thing, and you just go home, and then that's it. That must be a fun job because you can go and make people feel pretty and stuff, and then you just go. And you have so much freedom because you're your own boss and you can work on whenever you want to. And the reality is that running a business is not simple. Yes, you are your own boss. So there's parts of that, yes, they are true. You can make your own schedule, but there are so many hats required to wear outside of just providing a service to make your business successful. And so you have to hold yourself accountable and wearing all those hats in a very wide range of ways. And so I think that people for example, if you were to hire an employee, they might come in and look at what you're doing and say, well, that's easy. I can do that. And yes, they can, but I don't think people realize from the get-go, how all the moving parts that are involved in making something happen and work. So I think that's just one of the things. I don't really necessarily have to address that because I don't have anybody to really answer to. But I think that just knowing that there's just a lot involved in it, it makes you really busy.
And kind of going off of that, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
With very minimal sleep. It's hard. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest challenges that I have, especially being a single parent with 2 kids. It's just, and learning how to set boundaries. I'm not been great at that in my career. So it's something that I feel I've gotten better at over time, and saying no, because when you're in business for yourself, I mean, you talk about it with other business owners or independent, either hairdressers or nail techs or whoever in our industry. And a lot of us are afraid to say no because you don't want to say no. And so, the only time you can come in is on Sunday morning. Okay, yeah, let's do it, especially in the beginning because you're building. So you don't say no. So I think that's been a challenge, just having little ones and making sure that you disconnect at the end of the day. So I do have, at this point in time, I've got 2 scheduled workouts a week. So that helps to keep me, going and stuff. And I try not to let my work interfere with that. So that helps with things. And then also outside of just the normal everyday hustle and grind, I try to be intentional about doing fun activities with my kids. So, we have fun bike rides in the neighborhood, play volleyball out in the street. And then this winter we went skiing for the first time. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I got a paddleboard. So this summer, our goal has been to kind of explore new places to go take the bikes and the paddleboard and just go, have some fun. So that's pretty much it.
That is amazing. And you have made some incredible strides over the last 23 years. What do you attribute your growth to?
So I thought about this when I was doing my questions last night, and I think that innately I am just kind of wired with this sense of determination. Ever since I was a little kid, from a young age, I started doing the whole lemonade stand selling stuff. Went from that to selling rocks that I painted with my friend. And then I started my own neighborhood babysitters club. Then I started a bracelet making business, all, from the elementary to middle school, making friendship bracelets and things. So I kind of have always just had this drive for success. Outside of that, though, I would say being in it and starting it is the ability to be coachable And so I think doing sports when I was at a young age, it helps because, being on the court or on the track or wherever it is that you are, I think that being coachable is really important because when I did hire a business coach, I made leaps and bounds that I didn't know I could do. I thought I was already at the top of my game. And then I hired this coach and I was like, I'm not doing this or this or this. Why didn't I know this? So, and then I didn't really know that there were industry business coaches that could help. I would say that the business coaching portion of what I have done has been huge. Also, I would say being goal oriented and then being able to set yearly, monthly, weekly, down to daily goals and breaking them all down and then being intentional and just paying attention to that so that every day when you go in, okay, this is how many clients I need to see, and this is how much the average ticket needs to be so that way I can hit these numbers, so that way I can hit these goals by end of week, end of month, end of year. That wasn't something I learned when I was starting business. Most of us don't. I would say people who've been in this business for 20 plus years, there's a percentage of people, we don't get taught that when we're in school. So I think those are things that are important to learn. So just being mindful about hitting those goals. One thing I learned was that in the very early stages of business that somebody said to me once was like, when you're not busy with clients at work, you need to be very intentional about utilizing the downtime, and that it goes towards your business. So whether it's 1 to 2 hours a day or 6 to 8 hours a day, if you have nobody on your books, then you need to spend that time doing whatever it is that you need to do to either go out and figure out how to network, go get on social media. Nowadays, in those days, we weren't doing much of that, or cleaning your room, making sure everything looks tip-top shape, or, going door to door. Whatever it is to better yourself and your business, be intentional about utilizing that time, whether there's people on the books or not. And I think that's super important to do because a lot of times people are like, oh, nobody's on my books, I'm going to the lake. And so it's just easy to push the other stuff that is involved in business to the side. And another thing that people can do, I think, is to reach out to guests you haven't seen in a while. I haven't seen them in 6 months. I wonder how they're doing. So reach back out, say, hey, checking in. I haven't seen you in a while, seeing if you need something. And a lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to text you. Oh my gosh, yes, I need to get in. What do you have available? So, that's also a good way to, connect with your guests too.
I love all of that. So looking ahead, I love this question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and any words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow their business?
I'm not really sure where I see myself in 5 years, but when I think of 5 years down the road, I'd like to see things continue to grow and evolve, and potentially like to see business continue to evolve on the med side of aesthetics. I think I mentioned just briefly earlier that this med side of aesthetics is very new. And so that was probably one of the biggest leaps that I've taken thus far to date. And it's been probably the biggest learning curve I've ever had. It's exciting, and I really, really love what we're doing. So I would like to see that continue to grow. And then as far as words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow their business, I would advise others to determine a blueprint in reaching their goals when they're starting business and to have a way to track those goals on a consistent basis. I would also recommend to seek out resources that can help and not be afraid to ask those questions. Again, when I first got started, I didn't know who to ask for help. So you don't know what you don't know. So whether it's a business coach or whoever, and again, to be coachable, believe in yourself. It's easy to doubt yourself when you're starting a business like this because it's a big step and it's kind of scary and you're not really sure how to navigate. And, take educated risks. Don't take risks that don't make sense, but taking educated risks, I think, is good. And again, listen to your gut. And I think another thing that's important is for folks, because, there's so many estheticians in town. There's so many med spas in town. There's so many of us that do this kind of work. And I think what's important is to determine what sets you apart from the next esthetician, like 2 blocks down the road or downstairs or wherever. There could be 3 estheticians in the building. What is going to cause somebody who comes to see you and then for a facial, and then they go see that person downstairs for a facial? What makes them come back to you? And figure out what that is. Are we going to give them a standard cookie cutter facial, or are you going to give them something extra that makes them say, oh, I really enjoyed that experience, give them an experience that they are going to remember and love and tell all their friends about.
I love that.
So that is something that I think is really important. Don't compare yourself to others, which is easy to do. You can look at the next business that's been in business for 10 years when you've been in business for one and say, well, I can do that. Like, that's hard. Like, how am I supposed to get there? Don't do that. Just figure out what makes your business better and just start there. And I think that's really important to remember when you're getting started in all of it. And then also just remember that anything is possible with clear goals and a roadmap. You can do it. They're just those steps that you outline. I think that people might need a little help with creating that roadmap, but once they have it, they can totally do it. And I think people just need to remember that anything is possible. Another thing I would remind people is to be passionate and enthusiastic about their work and what they do and commit to working hard. And then just, being authentic and genuine with their guests, with a side of class. And on top of all the hard work, have fun. Because this is an awesome industry to be in. Like, it's so much fun, and I love what I do. That was one of the things I was going to say is that, when in my early years just out of college, as I sat at that desk staring at numbers on a computer screen for hours, was that I hated every minute of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I prayed for a job that I'd be able to wake up and look forward to each day. I'm like, I don't want to hate going to work and dread driving to this place with these people that it just was it wasn't for me at all. And I prayed for a job that I would enjoy going to. And I can honestly say that in my past 23 years of, doing what I do, that I genuinely, truly love and enjoy my work. I love my guests, and I just, the life it has provided for me and my girls, I just can't even be more thankful for that. So it's really awesome. And a quick story, just for, I don't know, whoever will listen to this, or maybe new estheticians that are getting started. When I came to Spokane and started business in 2011 for, again, the third time, arriving here in the dead of winter and with Georgia, newly, separated and living with my sister with not any money in the bank, and my daughter was 2, I was like, again, just determined more than ever to make it work. And within 2 months, I was able to get us an apartment. I was like, wow, like, I can't believe I got us an apartment in 2 months. Like, this is so great, And then in 2 years, I was able to build a house. Tell people that because I want them to know that anything is possible.
I love that.
It's like your opportunities are limitless. And, I just think it's a really awesome industry to be in. And so I want to just encourage those that are starting this career path or thinking about starting their business that the sky's the limit. Like, it really is. It's really cool.
And then my final question is, what question should I be asking you that I haven't yet?
I put like a couple down. So what's one of the most favorite parts of what you do?
Oh, yes, that's a good one.
And I would say it's the building relationships with my guests, because now that I've been established here in Spokane for now almost 14 years, I have guests that I've seen for 14 years, and we have been through all the things together: divorces, marriages, graduations, babies, you name it. And, and I see them on a regular, consistent basis, whether it's every 2 weeks or every 4 to 6. And I feel like, you get to know your guests well, and it's just a lot of fun. And I just love the guests. And then I guess the other thing that I would also say, maybe, what sets me apart from the next esthetician.
Yeah.
Here in town, because there, like I said, there's a lot of us here, and there's other med spas in town. And I think what might be my defining unique thing that I can offer is the unique combination of services I offer, and that they're uniquely tailored to each guest. So as far as, like, say, if we're talking about facials and things, like, you can pair that with a reflexology pedicure and do the whole thing laying down, and then you get a head-to-toe experience, which is kind of cool.
And it's very nice. I've gotten it before, you guys, for our listeners at home. And
yeah, it's
the most relaxing thing.
Like spa treatment. And then if we're talking about med spa type stuff, and another thing that it's new, which you've experienced, is the scalp treatment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was nice.
That's a lot of fun to do, and it's trendy, and it's, relaxing, and it just feels great. But something that is kind of cool is that somebody can come and get a Moxie, and then they can lay down and get a scalp treatment literally right after. And they can literally have results meet relaxation in the same treatment, which is kind of cool.
Results meet relaxation. That's good.
Yeah. And so I like that, I can offer some of these unique things.
Well, thank you so much, Lonnie. It was such a lovely treat getting to learn more about your story. And for all of our listeners, please be sure to check out the Healing Hut below and come back for more episodes, and make sure to take advantage of that sale because that is incredible.